All right, get ready. Today we're going to deep dive into prepping for a compliance engineer job interview.
Yeah, should be interesting.
We've got a career guide, an interview guide, and some info on RoleCatcher, and we're going to distill it all down to help you nail that interview.
Cool.
Sounds good. Okay, so before we jump into the hot seat, let's just what exactly I a compliance engineer? I mean, it sounds kind of like a superhero, right? Defender of regulations?
Haha. Yeah, kind of. They're the ones making sure all the products and systems and processes, all that stuff, meets the safety standards, the legal standards, all the quality standards too.
So they're like the bridge between engineering and all the rules and regulations, all that.
Exactly. And they're needed in tons of different industries like manufacturing, aerospace, automotive, even construction.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, a lot of variety there, lots of opportunity.
That makes sense. And actually, our career guide mentions that it's a high-demand field right now.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's getting more complex, right? So, But we definitely need people who can navigate the regulatory landscape.
For sure.
Okay, so speaking of navigating, let's dive into the interview guide. It's got tons of questions that you'll probably face in an interview.
Sounds good.
So first up, can you explain your experience with regulatory compliance? It's like a classic opener. But what are they really getting at with that question?
I think they're trying to figure out, how deep your understanding is and really your practical experience, have you actually done this stuff? Don't just, rattle off a list of regulations you memorized or whatever.
Right.
Instead, talk about, specific examples of how you actually applied those regulations in real-world situations, at a job or something.
So how do you make your answer, stand out?
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have a ton of experience yet, if you're newer to the field.
Well, the career guide talks about transferable skills, maybe you've had to follow procedures in other areas of your life, in school or maybe volunteer work.
I see.
Anything where you had to, make sure things were done a certain way. Did you have to implement a new safety protocol, maybe in a lab or something? Or manage a project, with strict deadlines,
I see what you mean, yeah.
So even if it wasn't in a formal engineering role, it still shows that you understand compliance.
Okay, so it's about connecting the dots for them, showing them you've got the mindset even if you don't have years of experience.
Exactly.
That's smart. Okay, let's look at another one. How do you stay up to date with changes in regulations and industry standards? Because, that just feels like it's constantly changing, right?
Yeah, it can feel like a lot, like you're always playing catch up.
Right.
I think the key here is showing that you're proactive, you're taking the initiative to stay informed. So talk about, any professional organizations you're part of, publications you read, websites you follow, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Oh, and if you've earned any certifications, definitely highlight those, a CQE or a CRCM. Those are good ones.
Now, our career guide mentions those certifications too. Are those really that important?
Oh, they can be, yeah. They show you're really serious about this field. And, to keep them, you usually need to keep learning new stuff. So it shows you're dedicated to staying current.
Oh, okay. So it's more than just checking a box. It shows you're actively engaged in growing professionally.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, next question. How do you prioritize tasks when faced with multiple compliance-related projects? I feel like this is where it gets a little maybe stressful.
Well, yeah, sometimes it can be. But they want to see that you can handle the pressure and make, good decisions, especially when things are busy.
Right.
So think about a time when you had to juggle a bunch of things at once, maybe at work, maybe even in school or something.
Okay.
How did you decide what to focus on first? Did you use any special methods or frameworks to prioritize your work?
So it's not just saying I'm a good multitasker. It's more like showing them your process.
Right, exactly.
What if you haven't had to manage a bunch of projects at the same time yet? How do you answer that?
I think you can still answer it well, even if you don't have tons of experience, even if it was just schoolwork and a part-time job,
Yeah.
It's all about explaining how you think, how you figure out what's most urgent and what's going to have the biggest impact.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about communication for a minute. Here's a question that often comes up. How do you ensure that employees are aware of compliance requirements and trained to follow them? Because it's not enough for just you to know the rules, right? Everyone needs to be on board.
Absolutely, yeah. This question is all about getting everyone in the loop. So think about times when you've had to explain complex stuff to other people, maybe training materials you created or workshops you led, or even just helping a coworker understand something.
Oh, okay.
Anything where you had to make compliance stuff like clear and easy to understand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, our career guide also talks about how important communication skills are for compliance engineers. Why is that so important?
Well, you're always interacting with different people, right? Engineers, managers, the legal team, even people from outside the company, like auditors. So you need to be able to explain complicated regulations in a way that everyone gets.
So you're kind of like a translator almost. You're taking this complex stuff and making it like accessible to everyone.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, time for a question that I think makes everyone a little nervous. Have you ever identified a compliance issue that required immediate attention? How did you handle it? It's like the classic, tell me about a time you mess up,
Yeah.
but with a compliance twist.
Yeah, it can be kind of intimidating, but it's a good chance to show your problem-solving skills, like how you stay calm under pressure.
So how do you pick like the right example to talk about? What kind of story will impress them?
Talk about a time when you not only found the problem, but you actually did something about it. If
Okay.
maybe you noticed a safety hazard in a lab or a process that wasn't following industry standards, something like that.
Gotcha.
And walk them through step by step. How'd you find the issue? How'd you figure out how serious it was? And then what did you actually DO to fix it?
I guess being honest is super important here, right?
Yeah.
Everyone makes mistakes. It's more about what you do after.
Yeah, definitely. They don't expect you to be perfect. They just want to see that you're, self-aware, you take responsibility, and that you're proactive in fixing problems.
Okay, let's tackle this one. How do you balance the need for compliance with the need to meet business goals and objectives?
Mm.
Sometimes it feels like those things are kind of at odds, compliance can be expensive and take a lot of time.
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes people see compliance as like a roadblock, like it slows things down.
Right, exactly.
But this question is really about showing that you can think strategically, that you get the big picture.
Okay.
Compliance isn't just about checking boxes. It's about protecting the organization and helping it succeed in the long run.
So how do you walk that line between compliance and business goals? How do you make them work together?
Well, you got to show that you can communicate with everyone involved, really advocate for compliance without being a roadblock yourself.
Right.
You have to find solutions that keep everyone happy, let's say you're working on a project and the engineers want to launch it quickly, but you see a potential compliance issue.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of just shutting it down, maybe you suggest a phased rollout, You address the most critical compliance stuff first, and then the team can work on the rest later.
That's a good example, yeah. It shows you're thinking about the practical side of things too, not just the rules.
Yeah, finding that balance is really important.
Okay, let's get a little more technical.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Can you discuss your experience with risk assessments and management?
All right, this is where you get to show off a little.
Okay.
Talk about specific projects where you had to assess risks. What were the potential problems? How did you figure out how likely they were to happen and how bad they'd be if they did happen? And what did you do to prevent those problems?
Yeah, the career guide mentions risk assessment as a core skill. But it's different for every industry, right? And every project probably has its own unique risks.
Yeah, for sure. You need to know the specific regulations and standards for your industry, and then you have to be able to translate that into real-world strategies for managing those risks.
Gotcha. Okay, last question for this section. How do you ensure that compliance-related policies and procedures are regularly reviewed and updated? Because things are always changing, right? New regulations pop up all the time. Technology changes. Everything's in flux.
Yeah, that's true. This question is about showing that you're, proactive about keeping things current. So, how do you stay on top of all those changes?
Yeah.
Do you have a system for reviewing those policies? Are you subscribed to any newsletters or alerts or anything like that?
I see. So it's not enough to just have policies. You got to have a way to keep them up to date, too.
Exactly.
And wouldn't this also be a good place to talk about collaboration skills? Because to update policies, you'd probably have to work with different teams, right? Legal, HR, the engineers, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows that you can work with different people to build a good compliance system for the whole organization.
Okay, we've covered a lot here.
Yeah.
I want to pause and just connect this back to you, the listener. Remember, this isn't just information overload. We're giving you tools to craft really good answers that show off your unique skills and experiences. So what's standing out to you? What are some things you're going to focus on as you prep for your own interview? Take a second and think about that. All right, now let's talk about how technology can, like, supercharge your interview prep. That's where RoleCatcher comes in, right?
Exactly. It's like a personalized interview coach. It can help you tailor your answers to specific jobs and then get feedback to refine your delivery and make it even better.
Intriguing. Let's dive into that after a quick break.
Welcome back. Ready to supercharge your interview prep? We're going to talk about RoleCatcher and how AI can help you ace those interviews.
Oh, absolutely. I'm ready. We talked about the skills and stuff, but how do you actually, like, turn that into interview success?
That's where RoleCatcher comes in. It's like having a personal coach, but for interviews.
Okay, how so?
Well, it helps you tailor your answers and really polish your delivery so you impress those hiring managers.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
Right. So imagine you're applying for a compliance engineer job, right? Like, say, at a pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
You upload the job description to RoleCatcher, and it's AI. It analyzes everything. The keywords, the skills they're looking for, even the tone of the description.
So it's not just looking at, like, generic compliance engineer stuff. It's really understanding what that company wants for that specific role.
Exactly. It gets the nuances. And then, based on that, it gives you specific interview questions that you're likely to get asked, questions tailored to that company and that job.
Whoa, so it's like getting a sneak peek into the interviewer's brain. That's kind of cool. But even if you know the questions, like, coming up with good answers on the spot is hard. Can RoleCatcher help with that?
Yeah, definitely. RoleCatcher doesn't just give you questions, it also helps you structure your answers so they're really strong. It'll give you prompts and tips so you can highlight the best parts of your experience. It's like having a scriptwriter for your interview behind the scenes.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. Can we, like, try an example?
Sure.
Let's say the job description really emphasizes data privacy. How would RoleCatcher help me answer that? Tell me about a time you identified a compliance issue question, the one we talked about earlier.
Good one. Remember we talked about showing your problem-solving skills and that you take action? Well, RoleCatcher would nudge you to pick an example that's related to data privacy.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you almost caught a data breach or noticed something that wasn't following GDPR regulations. It might even remind you to mention how your actions actually help. Did you prevent a leak? Did you make a system more secure? Stuff like that.
So it's not just telling a story, it's telling the right story, the one that really matters to them.
Exactly. It helps you target your answer. And here's something else cool. RoleCatcher, you can actually record yourself answering practice questions.
Oh, wow.
And the AI will analyze your video.
No way.
Yeah, it gives you feedback on your tone, your body language, even how fast you're talking.
So it's like a virtual mock interview, but with an AI coach.
Exactly. No more awkward practice sessions with your friends.
I love it. This is amazing. The feedback, is it pretty specific?
Oh, yeah. It might tell you that you're using too many ums and ahs or that you're slouching a little.
Huh.
It's like having a stylist for your interview, making sure you look and sound your best.
Okay, I'm sold. RoleCatcher sounds like a game changer for sure. But we shouldn't forget about the career guide and the interview guide, right? I mean, those are super helpful too.
Oh, absolutely. The career guide gives you that big picture view, what different career paths are there, what are the important skills, what's the potential for growth, all that. And the interview guide, it gives you strategies for answering common questions, the kind we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So they all work together. The guides give you the foundation, and RoleCatcher, it takes it to the next level, personalizes everything.
Makes sense. Speaking of the career guides, one thing that stuck out to me was how much it emphasizes continuous learning. It's not just about getting the job. It's about always improving and keeping up with the changes.
For sure. Compliance is always changing, so the learning never really stops. The career guide talks about getting advanced degrees, certifications, just staying on top of what's happening in the industry, all that.
So it's you don't just become a compliance engineer and then you're done. You're always leveling up your skills.
Yeah, exactly. And you should really show that in your interviews, too. When you're talking about your experience, talk about how you've taken on new challenges, learned new skills, adapted to changes, stuff like that.
Okay, so show them that you're passionate and you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, basically.
All right, I just want to pause again and check in with you, the listener. Are you seeing how all this fits together? The career insights, the interview strategies, and now the AI stuff with RoleCatcher. It's all about helping you feel confident and ready to rock that interview. Now you feeling it. Let's jump back into those questions and see how RoleCatcher can help us craft some amazing answers. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, we're back. Ready for more interview questions. got RoleCatcher by our side, ready to help us craft those perfect answers.
Awesome. Let's tackle one that can be tough. How do you handle conflicts or disagreements, related to compliance issues? It's tricky because it's not just about the rules themselves. It's about like working with people and advocating for compliance in a way that's, firm but also diplomatic.
Right, right. So it's not just technical. It's also about how you handle those situations with other people.
Exactly. So how would RoleCatcher help us prep for that kind of question? Well, it would remind us to focus on communication skills, collaboration, all that. It might even suggest using the STAR method.
STAR method.
Yeah, like situation, task, action, result.
Oh, right, right.
So you describe a specific situation, where there was a conflict about compliance, and then what your role was, what you had to do, the actions you took to resolve it, and then what the outcome was.
So instead of just saying, I'm good at handling conflict, you're giving them a real example.
Exactly. Show, don't tell. And RoleCatcher might even suggest some keywords or phrases to use based on the job description. Like, if they emphasize teamwork, RoleCatcher might suggest you talk about how you, got everyone together, listened to their ideas, and found a solution that worked for everyone while still making sure things were compliant.
So RoleCatcher's like helping you speak their language.
Yeah, kinda. All right, let's try another tough one. Can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult decision related to compliance?
That one's always a bit nerve-wracking, You don't want to say you did something wrong, but you also want to show that you can, make tough calls.
Yeah, definitely a tough one.
This is where your judgment comes in, your ethics, how you make decisions.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher would probably tell you to pick an example that shows you can assess the situation, weigh the different options, and then make a decision that follows the rules. A&D is in the best interest of the company.
Okay, so it's not just about blindly following the rules. It's about, understanding the bigger picture. Yeah, making smart decisions. What kind of example would really impress them, you ask?
Well, imagine this. You have to choose between delaying a product launch, to fix a safety issue, or launching on time. But maybe there's some risk involved.
Tough choice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you walk them through how you made that decision. What were the risks? Who did you talk to? What did you have to consider? And then how did you finally decide what to do?
That kind of story would show not just your technical knowledge, but also, your integrity.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher might suggest you talk about what you learned from that experience, too. Show that you're always thinking about how to do things better. Okay, ready for the salary question. Everyone's favorite. What are your salary expectations?
Oh, man. That one always makes me nervous.
Yeah.
How do you even answer that without, selling yourself short or asking for too much?
Research is key. The career guide has salary ranges for different roles, based on experience, location, all that. And RoleCatcher can actually pull salary data from different places too, so you have a good idea of what's reasonable.
So you're not just throwing out a number, you're backing it up with real data. That's smart. But what if they offer you less than you were hoping for?
That's where negotiation comes in. And guess what? RoleCatcher can help with that too.
Seriously?
It gives you tips on how to counteroffer, how to highlight your skills, and what you bring to the table. It might even suggest other things you can negotiate, like, a signing bonus or extra vacation days.
So it's not just about the money, it's about the whole package.
Exactly. And remember, a good negotiation means both sides are happy. You want to feel valued and paid fairly, but you also want to show that you're flexible,
Makes sense. Wow, we've talked about so much today. We went over the key skills for a compliance engineer, answered some really tough interview questions, and even explored how AI, like RoleCatcher, can help you really nail those interviews. But before we go, I want to bring it back to something we touched on earlier, continuous learning. The career guide really stresses that this isn't a career where you just learn a few things and then you're set for life. It's about always growing and keeping up with all the changes.
Definitely. It's a dynamic field. There's always something new happening, new regulations, new technologies, new ways of thinking about compliance. That's what keeps it exciting. And it's something you should show in your interviews, that you're eager to learn and grow.
So it's not just about getting the job. It's about committing to a career of learning and growing.
Exactly. And the resources we talked about today, the career guide, the interview guide, and of course, RoleCatcher, those can all help you along the way.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought. Being a compliance engineer isn't just about, checking boxes and making sure everyone follows the rules. It's about understanding why those rules exist. It's about advocating for safety, for quality, and ultimately for making a positive impact on the world. So go into those interviews with confidence, show your passion, and let your expertise shine. You got this.
We're cheering for you. Good luck on your compliance engineer journey.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another exciting topic and more expert advice to help you navigate your career. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for those goals.